All right, families, hello. I'm here at Marymore Park. It's really pretty. Everything is nice and white and blanketed and covered in snow or ice. And some of the trees look a little sad because they're kind of droopy, as you can see behind me right here. That one's like drooping on the ground. But I really like winter time. I think it's a time that we just don't get to have a whole lot of in Texas. So I'm out here and I'm making this video for you all, because I think it would be kind of neat to see what it is that would require you to survive out here if we were actually doing survival in the winter. So I'm gonna wander around and I'm gonna just start looking at, if I was out here trying to live for a couple of days, what would I do? And that's gonna be a video that I share with you all. So I've got a few supplies. I've got some things. One of them is a backpack, and it's on my shoulder here. And I've got a metal container inside there. I've also got a tarp right here and a wool blanket. And I've also got a knife inside my pocket here. And I've also got a saw as well. So I've got a few supplies and a few tools. And we're gonna see, the first thing if we can do is get a fire started. So stay tuned, we'll see you in a minute. So you can see all the ice weighing down on the trees. Where I'm at right now is over in our big game field. So I'm sure a lot of you recognize this area here. This is where the eagles and the owls usually play games. And then right over there is where we normally play games for the hawks and the falcons. But just look at these trees and this water here. And there's ice all over the ground. Mr. Chris has his water boots on. But look how different the juniper looks when they get all clustered together. Those leaves don't look like needles anymore. They just look so different. And obviously the bark looks very different now. And, you know, one of the things that a lot of people ask me is they say, you know, do you think it hurts the trees? Like, if anything, I think it makes the trees stronger. Think about it kind of like lifting weights for you. The more you lift weights, work out, the stronger you get. So I would imagine that these trees going through this type of stuff actually just makes them a lot stronger. I'm gonna walk through this little bit of ice real quick and we're gonna see what happens here. It's kind of a slushy, right? The question of, can I feel the water through my boots? No, I can't. These boots are complete rubber. All I can feel is that my feet get a little bit colder. But I think that's just because of what is called conduction. Conduction is when your body touches something else that's either cold or hot. So if you're laying on the ground right here, you are going to be losing your body's heat via conduction. Now, if I was standing in the middle of the field over here and the wind was blowing against my body, then I would be losing heat via convection. So there's convection and conduction. Conduction is touch, convection is wind across the body. Now there's other ways that we can be losing warmth out here, and the other ways is perspiration. So obviously sweating, we're losing water and as well as warmth doing that. Evaporation, same thing. And also, radiation is another way that we're gaining heat. So we want to bring on the radiation, and we want to stop the conduction and convection, ideally. So in order for me to get some long wave radiation, which is a fancy way of saying fire, we've got to look for dry tinder, and we've got to look for some dry firewood. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. As you can see, everything's pretty saturated. It's pretty wet, but I can guarantee you I can find some dry tinder out here. So just give me a second and we'll see what we can find. All right, everybody. So when it comes to collecting firewood, there's an old saying, higher is drier. Obviously, all around the ground here, you see lots and lots of water, melting ice, things like that. So everything on the ground is going to be very, very wet right now. But that does not mean that we cannot find dry wood. We just have to look higher, because what's the saying? Higher is drier, okay? The other saying is, if you can't snap it, scrap it. So if those sticks that you're harvesting aren't breaking real easily, that means there's still too much water retention, or that means the stick or the twig is still alive. So remember, if you can't snap it, scrap it. Or another way of saying it that I've heard a kid say is, if you can't break it, don't take it. So if it's not snapping very, very easily, let me give you an example here. Let's see on the ground here. This is a great example. So whenever I grab this one and I barely bend and it snaps instantly, that's awesome stuff. But if it's something different, let me give you another example here. Here we go. Right, this is not breaking when I pull it, right? Because this is still alive and it's still got a lot of moisture and whatnot inside of it. So I cannot break it, therefore I'm not taking it. Remember, the other saying is, if you can't snap it, scrap it. So here's another living tree. This one's obviously easy to distinguish because it's got green leaves on it. But notice when I bend that down, it just bends. It does not snap. So I need something more along the lines of this, where when I barely bend, it snaps instantly. Higher is drier. Can't break it, don't take it. Let's get some firewood, folks. All right, so there's a lot of dead branches right here. I'm gonna start breaking off the tail ends of these. And the reason I'm gonna do that is because this is gonna be really, really good for getting a fire started. Now, a lot of this stuff is saturated in water. So I'm gonna look for the smallest branches possible. And that's what I'm gonna start breaking off here. But remember, when we get a fire going, we want our fire to be a little baby first. Okay, so I'm gathering up lots and lots of stuff. All right, so right here we have a big patch and a grove full of what are called white crown beards, and these are great fire starting plants right here because they're dead, they're dried out, they are crispy, meaning they're going to accept a flame real easily, and they're very brittle is a great way of saying that. And we're gonna harvest some of these and we're gonna get a fire started. So see how easily that breaks right there. Watch this. See how easy that is. All right, let's harvest some of this and we'll get back to it. All right, so one of the things that a lot of people overlook in winter survival is dead branches. So if you see here, this dead branch right here, this is perfectly dry wood on the inside. And if I have a knife, what I can do is I can take all these little thin bits off with a knife and get a fire started just like that. So that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, so when it comes, somebody's playing in the parking lot with their car. So when it comes to finding dry tinder, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look inside pockets like this, everybody. So look right inside this pocket. See, deep inside here, there's gonna be a lot of good dry tinder that I can use to get my fire started. So when you're wandering around and you're looking, look for pockets that are protected, because water can't get deep down inside these areas here. It also has a very difficult time freezing any water that gets in there, because A, water doesn't get in there, but also it's got a nice little overhang. If you look right here, this is protecting it, and the water is actually going around. So look at these drips right here. The water's going around all this. So I'm gonna dig deep in here and rip out some bark, and we're gonna have tinder to get our fire going. And they're all over juniper trees. So if you look just right next to me, here's another one. Look how deep my fingers go in this one. There's one right over here. This one's really deep. Look at this cavity. I mean, I can get my whole entire hand inside that cavity right there. So lots and lots of options when it comes to getting tinder in winter for yourself. So let's get some of this tinder and we'll get back to making our fire. All right. Sorry it's so bright and white out here right now. I know it's kind of hard to see. I'll see if I can fix that. Maybe I can focus the camera in a different way. There we go. But I'm here. I'm out at the park, and I got gloves on. I've got a knife. I've got a lot of layers. I've got a hood. I've got a hat. I'm nice and warm. So we're gonna see if we can get warmer by getting the fire going in this cold weather. Here we go. Oh, I did get lots of good tinder. So I got dry tinder right here. I got lots of dry sticks down below, and I'm actually gonna cut into some of those logs that I showed you just a bit ago so that we can get some even more dry wood. And so what I'm gonna be using today is I'm gonna use no matches. I'm not gonna use any lighters or anything like that. I just have one big ferro rod, and we're gonna try to start our fire using just our ferro rod and nothing else. So to show you that it can be done, and a lot of kids, they use these things pretty regularly, but I don't think any of y'all have ever used it in a snowstorm quite like this. So the camera is also getting a little bit wet because of the rain, but I'm gonna try to film this still and we're gonna see what happens. So here we go. So I'm actually gonna take off my gloves because I'm having a problem doing breaking up the tinder with my gloves on. So I'm taking my gloves off right now. And here's my tinder, and I'm really trying to get it roughed up here. But it is dry. You can see, I mean, that's dry tinder. It's not like I'm brought this out here with me. All right. It's actually nice to do this because your hands get friction, right? So here's our dry little tinder ball. Now, it's very important if you don't find dry tinder to start taking tinder off and placing it somewhere near the body. If you have lots of layers on, like Mr. Chris right now, I've got lots and lots of different layers on. What I would do is stuff that tinder in places where the body's really, really warm. So like under the armpits is a great place. You want to make sure that it's not so wet that it then begins saturating your clothes and getting your clothes wet, because obviously wet clothes in a cold environment, that oftentimes means that you could begin developing hypothermia, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to keep our bodies warm. So if it's too wet, like soaking cold, wet tinder, don't put it in near your body and your clothes. You're just going to make your clothes worse. So here we go. We're going to keep going. But yeah, look, my little dry, fluffy tinder ball right here. And we're going to throw some sparks at it. We're going to see if we can get a little miniature fire going. Now, most important thing about winter fire, everything has to be perfectly prepped. If you just get this little thing going, you don't have all your sticks and your logs and everything ready to go, this is just going to go out, and then you're going to have to work again. And remember, our goal here is to work smart, not hard, right? We want to prep. Preparation is always going to be key in winter survival or any type of survival. Know before you go. All right, and always make sure that you got everything in your favor. So you want good clothes, good tools, good location, meaning for your fire, so that you're not like building it on snow and things like that. I need a good location, but just things to think about. Okay, let's get back to it. This is kind of funny. My my thing froze here. Look, see, I'm pulling this up hard, and it's not coming up. It finally froze. But this will still throw sparks in the winter. So that's what's great about this tool. And it'll throw sparks in the rain as well. So now I'm going to cut off some of this and get some of this dry wood. As you can see underneath here, there's a lot of dry wood. All that ice is flying right off. And look at those shavings coming off. That's what I'm looking to try to collect a lot of, is this stuff right here. Okay, this is dry wood on the inside of the stick. There's lots of dry wood, okay? So cut those off using your knife. If you can't find a knife, any type of rough scraping tool, so a rock could work, a bone could work, a shell could work, the edge of the table honestly might even work, edge of a piece of concrete or something like that. The good thing about trash and survival is that, you know, it can help you be a tool. So let's keep going here. And then I'm going to try to spark this up using my little ferro striker here. So that went out pretty fast. Let's try that again. And you can see it is not wanting to start this fire. So I need to do a better job of prepping my materials, because you see how much Mr. Chris is struggling right now to get this going. And I gotta be real gentle with this little fire. I almost gotta baby it. You know, one of the things that you may want to do is put some kind of windbreak. So if you're getting a lot of wind and it's just not helping you, put a windbreak. Like, there we go. And it's real, the fire's really trying to get going, but right now everything is just so wet and so cold that it's really, really struggling to get going. The other thing is centralized heat. What that means is that we want a nice central source of heat that doesn't spread out. And it is getting really, really windy out here. And I'm sure you all can hear the wind in the video. So I'm gonna take a break. All right, so I've decided to move to a different area because it is just so windy in the area that I was trying to get a fire started. So I'm actually coming over to this side of the park, and hopefully I can get behind a wall or make a wall or do something along those lines so that I can not have the wind, first of all, stealing my heat, and second of all, making it much more difficult for me. So I'm coming over here to this side, and I've got a little pit here, and trying to get everything situated because it's a cold day and my hands are cold. But one of the things I just noticed, and I'm not going to do because it would be cheating, but I just noticed that I'm actually surrounded by a bunch of these poles. If you look right here, this tree is juniper, but it has really dry bark on it, but I don't want to cheat. So I went out and actually found another big bundle of juniper, and I'm going to bust that up. It's all nice and dry on the inside there, you can see. So I'm going to bust that up and make a really good sized tinder bundle this time. And I've got all my firewood ready to go behind me here. And from there, we're going to get a fire started. Here we go. All right, I'm taking my gloves off again because, again, I'm having trouble with breaking up the tinder here. And it does feel very cold, but it is dry. Now, one of the things when it's really cold out, juniper bark, what it tends to do is it tends to get very brittle. And brittle bark is not necessarily the best. So we're gonna try to get the best of the driest stuff here in our hands. And one of the things I think it is very, very important, folks, all you kiddos and teachers who are watching this too, and parents, is not to get frustrated, right? If you're getting frustrated, what's happening is mentally you're starting to feel defeated. And if you're feeling defeated, you're going to start going down in attitude, in the ability to be found if you're lost, in the ability to keep warm if you're cold, in order to sustain yourself, you know, finding water, getting food, cooking, taking care of tasks, all that. So mentally, if you're suffering and you're not feeling good, take some time, take a break, stop, reassess what you've got, reassess your plan, reassess your surroundings, reassess your needs, right? What needs of yours are not being met that are causing you to not have a good time out there? So if I'm getting frustrated and angry and all that stuff, that is bad for survival. So positive mental state, that's good survival, okay? It's all about staying positive. So I'm gonna continue to bust up all this stuff here. And this is way too wet. That is really, really wet tinder. So I'm gonna push that aside. And I found some other dry stuff right here. I'm gonna break this up now. And I think one of the other things is it's just my hands being wet too. That's causing the tinder to in turn get wet as well. Well, as you can see, I'm still trying, but it's slightly going now. It's challenging, that's for sure. Which is good, right? You know, we don't, as humans, want to be comfortable all the time. We want to be challenged because that's how we grow. So I feel good about doing this. And if you're out there right now doing this too, you should be feeling good because you're practicing and you're learning. And in the big picture, you know, the only way to be prepared is to practice. You know, you got to study for your tests. You got to practice riding your bike to get good. You got to practice guitar and piano and all those musical instruments. And you got to practice your survival skills. Remember, central heat. Central heat. You want everything centralized. Now, once we've got a good base of sticks on fire, we just want to keep throwing more and more and more little baby twigs. And even if they're a little bit damp or a little bit wet, they'll still catch because you've got a good base of heat down there. And it's drying it out while catching it on fire. So we're going to keep going here. So, as you all can see, fire is tough in the cold, in the wet, and the rain. And as you all know, I've been doing this a long time, and it's still challenging for me. So, if you all want to get good at this, make sure you practice. So go out in your backyards, side yards, front yards, wherever you can, and start practicing. Because if you don't, you're gonna feel it when you really need it, and you're gonna know, oh bummer, I should have been practicing this for a long time. But all right, yeah, made a fire in the snow, in the rain, in the cold, and it feels good. Got a nice little source of heat over my hands. I can pull out some of my other tools here. So some of the other things that I always keep inside my bag are bandanas. I think bandanas are very, very important for all kinds of things. I've also got a metal water bottle here. As you can see, it's been put through the fire and flames many, many times. Now, I don't just have a metal water bottle. I also have a metal cup that goes with it, and they actually fit inside one another to make it convenient to carry and easily portable, accessible to my backpack. It makes saves space and things like that. But the goal is to fill up one of these with water and then make sure the lid is not screwed on when this is filled up with water and you put it on fire, because the water is turning into a gas or steam, vapor, and it is trying to expand. So if your lid is on there, you're just actually gonna make like a little bomb. So please do not have your lid on. Also, insulated containers. If you have like a Yeti or a hydro flask or something like that, it's insulated to keep your drinks hot or cold. Don't put those in the fire either. Those will burst. So this is just a thin stainless steel tube. There's nothing insulated about it. So this can go on the fire and do what it is that I need to do. Like I said, if you pull this off the fire and there's boiling water in here, you can't drink boiling water. But what you can do with another container, this is why I always have this secondary container, is you can pour the two liquids back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and that creates surface area in the water. And what that means is that it rapidly cools the water back and forth as you pour back and forth. So you can drink it quickly if you're really, really dehydrated, instead of waiting potentially, up to an hour for that water to cool down so that your body can ingest it. So 2 containers is better than 1, obviously. All right. Some of the other things I carry on me is I always have a tarp. Right, a tarp is very, very helpful, whether that be for blocking wind or getting me up off the ground or making some kind of improvised shelter, things like that. And then I'm always carrying my wool blanket everywhere I go in the world. Well, mostly in the world. Actually, last time I was in Vermont, I brought it with me too. So pretty much anywhere in the world, I always bring this wool blanket. And wool, even when it's wet, because it has something called lanolin in it, it will still keep you warm. And what I like to do with my wool blanket is I like to put it up underneath my knees, so when I sit down, my body is not losing heat from the ground. Because remember, the earth is a lot bigger than I am, and it's going to steal my heat. It wants my warmth. And unfortunately, I am not bigger than the earth, so I cannot steal the earth's warmth and give it to myself. So a wool blanket is very, 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 very beneficial to all parties, whether you're an animal or a human or whatever. So bring your wool blankets, bring your tarps, bring your metal water bottles, bring some kind of fire starting tool, and obviously a backpack to carry it in. And no matter what, none of you should ever be without some kind of tool that allows you to carve and make other tools. So let's look at it like this. 5 C things: cutting tool, container, cover, you could say combustion, right? So fire. And then the last thing is actually this right here, which is rope. So I'd say cordage. So cutting tool, container, cover, combustion, and cordage, right? And that's a Dave Canterbury special. But I always carry those 5 things on me at all times. You could add some other C items in there, like compass or combo tool. I'm sure a lot of you have seen my multi-tool, my Leatherman. That's another C word. You could say something about protection or first aid. I don't know what kind of C word that would be. Care. That would be a good one, a care. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that I keep on me in the world of survival to make life a lot easier. Clothing is going to be the most important, though, because if you can't even tolerate being outside, what good is making a fire and shelter and trying to survive and all that stuff, right? It can be very, very tough if you don't have the adequate, proper clothing. So, that's it for this video. I hope y'all all had fun enjoying watching this, and I will see you all next week with better weather, and I'm sure some of you can get out there and practice your skills. And we'll see, or get to hear all your stories about doing that next week. So y'all take care, families. Bye, Natureversity students. Y'all take care. Have fun out there. Be safe.